Hello everyone, this is Cody again, back here to update the previous video I had made here on the 2000 Toyota 4Runner Sport 4-wheel drive 5-speed manual, and I was wanting to give you the best tips to look for here when buying a used vehicle, particularly this one. So we'll start here with the exterior. You want to make sure the paint is consistent on all panels. So you want to take this thing out here into the sun, make sure that you're getting the same kind of reflection looking down the side here from this view. You're getting the same reflection with each panel. So kind of go down the side, thoroughly looking over here each panel, and you could also go over it with your hands to make sure the smoothness of the paint is consistent. And you can go back here, look back down this side again, and you see everything looks about the same. And then we'll go back here to this other side. And we'll do the same thing to this side as well. Look down this panel here. Make sure that these panels are consistent. Now, when you're looking at the paint, you want to make sure there's no roughness, and you can tell that by the feel. You can tell it by a different look in the reflection of the paint itself, because those will be definite indicators for paint work or paint fading. It could have been in an accident, but there's a few different ways there to tell. And the first way is going to be seeing a difference in the paint. And you just want to go around the entire vehicle and make sure that all the different panels here are consistent and that they match one another. And then the next thing that we will do here, you're going to want to make sure that all the cracks, the creases here in the car for the different panels are the same width. So you can do the little finger test here and put your finger on the panel here on this side, and then that one there on that side. Make sure that those are even, and you'll just go around the entire car and do each one. So you try this one here, you'll go over there to the other side and try that one, and just do that with every seal around the vehicle, because if something is misaligned, that could mean that the car has been in an accident, especially if you're not getting the same feel on either side. Say if this one was wider or even closer than the other side, because rear end accidents sometimes, or just any accident in general, can be damaging to the body of the car, especially if they repair it. Alright, then the next thing we're going to look for here on the exterior is going to be the tires. So you're going to take a look at the tires. You want to go over and make sure that the wear pattern is consistent. And by that, I mean you don't want to see more wear here on the inside of the tire, or more wear out here on the outside of the tire, or even here on the center, because that could definitely mean that was an inflation problem, so they weren't filling the air properly in the tires. Or it could mean a worn out bushing or a control arm issue, and that can be a little bit of an expense you don't really want to have to deal with. So another thing here to look for is the tire wear marks. So you can just rub your finger over that, and if the wear mark here is flat and even with the rest of the tire, it's going to be needing a tire change here very soon, as this one is here. And you'll just go around and do that to all tires. Also check the condition of the wheels themselves. Look for rust on the exterior. Alright. Then we'll go ahead here on the inside. Then you got all your panels here, your control panels for the windows. You got your front two are automatic. So it's one touch down, one touch up. You got your window locks here, you got your door lock here, you got your power mirror controls. You want to make sure that these do work, so you can switch it from the left to the right, use the buttons and make sure they do work. Also, when you're getting into the vehicle, you want to check and make sure that all the door handles do work around all the sides of the car. Sometimes these things can break inside the little latches, and that can be a few $100 fix right there. And before you get the car going, you know, you want to make sure that everything is okay on the interior, that you want to check the wear of the seats themselves, make sure it's consistent around the entire vehicle, as well as looking at the roof of the car and compare the wear to the rest of the interior and make sure that it is all consistent, that there's not too much wear in one spot or the other. Because the last thing you want to be doing is buying yourself a vehicle that's going to cost you more money than you've already putting down. And that's why I'm here to help you prevent that. Alright, and so this is the 5-speed manual with a 4-wheel drive, so you do have your shifter here, and you have the 4-wheel drive shifter here. There is a little wear here, however, on the shifter itself and as well as around the steering wheel. You know, that's not something to be too alarmed about. It can be covered up with a steering wheel cover, and you know, especially on this car, this is a 2000 and it does have 210,000 miles, and we'll go ahead here and start it up. And so something you're wanting to definitely keep an eye out and an ear open for is when you start the car, you want to listen for any rough sounding start, hard to start, anything that doesn't sound right, maybe some noise coming from the front or the back, even from the underside of the car. It could be an exhaust leak, things like that. So just keep your ears and eyes open for any sounds, anything that doesn't look right. And you'll want to turn the car off and start it up about 3 times. And then when you do give it a drive and you're done driving it around, you'll want to turn it off and start it up again a few times, just to make sure that the car is consistently starting, because you want to make sure there's no issues with that, with the alternator, anything like that. So so then you're going to want to make sure all the controls do work. So you're going to have to so one of the things that does go out is going to be the AC. So you're going to want to make sure that the AC does work. Use the different dials here, go one by one. Sometimes these lower dials, you can turn it here and the air won't even work on some cars. So that could be an issue with something up there in the front, and you know, you might be of concern with that, to ask the owner of the vehicle what the issues are. And make sure the radio, the AC button is here, so you press that in, you get your AC going. And then you got your different controls here. You want to make sure they do work at each one. And then here you do have your rear window. You want to make sure that works as well. And since this is the 5-speed, one of the things you're going to look for is the first thing you're going to notice when you get in it to start it up, to drive it. That's going to be the clutch and the shifter itself. So you want to push the clutch in a few times and make sure that you're feeling pressure when you do push it in, but you don't want it to be too hard when you're pushing it in. You don't want too much of that back pressure. It could be something going on if it's too hard to press the clutch in, especially if the clutch just gives way. That could be another issue. So what we'll do here is we'll just go ahead and push the clutch in and make sure that the gear does go smoothly and that this shifts smoothly into each gear here. Check all the gears, kind of throw it back, and then your neutral, or your reverse here, my bad, it's right back here. Make sure the reverse does go in easily. I want to show you the underside here, because sometimes on these 5 speeds, what can happen is, especially with the clutch, you got your clutch master cylinder up in here, and If you're having issues pushing it in, or for some reason the car's not shifting, it could be a clutch master cylinder as well as a slave cylinder issue, and that can be a few $100 fix. Then we'll go ahead here and take a look at the engine. Alright, you want to look down here and you got to make sure that the fan belts are running smoothly. It sounds not too loud, and the fan's operating in unison with that. Then right here we have the timing belt replacement, and this will let you know the mileage as well as the date that it was replaced. And that's a major fix on these vehicles, is the timing belt and water pump. So that's something to keep an eye out for. As well as here, as well as the radiator. The original stock radiator on these cars is a tannish color, and if it's been replaced, it's going to be any other color but that tan color. They don't make those anymore. So you can tell, obviously, this radiator has been replaced. Whether or not that is of concern, you can always ask the owner. Sometimes if you see a lot of new parts here, anything up here in the front end, if metal parts are looking shinier in the front as compared to the back, you're going to want to have to ask questions with that, because that could definitely could mean that the car has been in a fender bender or front end accident, and that's something you want to find out. So you just go here and check all the coolant, that the coolant is filled up, it's up to date on that, as well as you got your oil here. So you'll want to check the oil with the dipstick, you know, make sure the oil's okay. Then you got your washer fluid over here, just see that it's filled and whatnot. Then you do have your air box. This is an easy check. You just go ahead and pop these latches right here, pull this up, and you can even just pull this thing a little forward. Go ahead and pull this right on out. And just check it just to see where it's at. Sometimes these things get dirty, and that could mean this thing needs to be replaced. Another thing here is the power steering. Just look around, make sure that it's not wet or dripping down around the power steering, because that could mean a power steering leak or issue. And power steering can be a few $100s to fix as well. Alright, then another thing here is going to be the engine block itself, and that's right down there where those bolts are, is where the gasket is on the inside there. Now if those are worn out, the gaskets, you will see leaks around the motor going down, and that can be a very expensive fix. Replacing the gaskets on these is not cheap, and you'll be burning through, who knows, oil or something else, and that could be definitely a bad thing. So then you do have your spark plug wires here that go down here to your plugs themselves. You got 3 plugs on this side, 3 plugs on that side. These are going to be your spark plugs. You want to make sure they don't look like they're too worn out, or if these things are ripped through and the wires are showing, that could mean they need to be replaced, which is not too expensive. But then again, here down here, you do see the seals down here. This is the engine block, and check and make sure there's no leaks around here on this side as well. And this is where you put the oil into, and make sure there's no leaks around this, because this could mean that this cap could be bad or something else. And then you do have your alternator right here. Just make sure this thing's not all worn out and looks warped or rusted in any way, because, you know, replacing that can be a few $100. Another thing here I want to show you is going to be here, the battery. Just look around these parts here, this part here, make sure it's all, that there's no corrosion. Sometimes too much corrosion can cut the battery out, and you know, especially if it's an older battery, they can wear out pretty quick, You know, those can be about over $100 or whatnot. And another thing I think is very important, looking down here at the bottom, you can look down there at the very bottom, actually where the skid plate is down underneath, and looking down there will actually give you a very good indicator to whether there is any oil leaks or any leaks of any sort in the vehicle. Because when you look down there at the bottom, it should be all dry. If you see it looks like it's wet or something doesn't seem right, like there's leaks of any sort down there, you're definitely going to want to get under the underside here and take a look at it. Because that is, unless the car has been washed before you've seen it, otherwise, because that will put water down there and it kind of mess things up, so you won't be able to tell as well. But you want to go over everything to make sure everything looks clean, there's nothing leaking, and you know, make sure these hoses aren't warped. You want to touch them, make sure that they're, you know, kind of feel newish. And because when these things get cracked or they get old, they get dry, so when you touch them they get this weird hard feeling to them. That could mean those need to be replaced. Then I want to go ahead and show you here one other thing under the underside, under the front end. As I mentioned, you do have your rock guard here. Make sure that thing's not too beat up, doesn't look like it's been through the ringer. And then here on this side we do have the CV boots. You got your shocks here on the front. Just make sure with the CV boots that there's no leaks, that it's not wet around the boot itself, and that there's no tears, because these things do wear out, and those can be a pain in the butt to replace. And you do have that here on both sides. Just give it a quick check, and then you can check up here under there, check to make sure there's no leaks, doesn't look like anything. And especially looking on the underside here, you'll get a better view of any leaks of any sort, and be able to tell if something doesn't look right. And you want to make sure that there's no leaks coming from the bottom of the guard here, because that will tell you if something's going on up underneath that you couldn't see from the top end here. Well, everybody, I was going to cut it short, but that's going to be it for this video. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will be bringing you more videos your way. Hope to help you out. Thank you.